Rain lashed against the windows, each drop a tiny hammer against the glass. Wind howled like a banshee, its eerie wail echoing through the dark forest. I sat by the fire, book trembling in my hands, the flickering flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. It was a night for ghost stories, for fear to creep in with the cold, seeping into every corner of the room. I tried to focus on the words, but the storm distracted me, its fury impossible to ignore. Each gust rattled the old house, making it groan and creak as if it were alive. Every creak of the floorboards sent shivers down my spine, each sound amplifying the tension in the air. I longed for the comfort of dawn, for the first light to chase away the shadows and the fear. The grandfather clock chimed midnight, its deep tones resonating through the house, marking the witching hour. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat loud and insistent, a drum of anxiety. I closed my book, suddenly aware of the silence between the storm's roars, a silence that felt almost unnatural, a silence that felt heavy, expectant, as if the night itself were holding its breath. Then I heard it, a knock. It was soft, almost hesitant, yet it echoed through the silence, sending a chill down my spine. 3 sharp raps at the front door. It was an insistent sound, demanding attention. My blood ran cold. Who would come calling on a night like this? I crept closer to the door, each step filled with dread. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. A cold draft seeped through the cracks, sending a shiver down my spine. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice barely a whisper. Silence. I strained to hear anything over the storm's fury. The silence stretched on, thick and heavy. Curiosity warred with fear. I had to know. Slowly I opened the door. The hallway gaped open, dark and empty. The storm's wind whipped into the house, sending a flurry of leaves swirling across the floor. But there was no one there. I leaned out, peering into the night. The rain obscured the yard, cloaking everything in a sheet of gray. I could barely see the outline of the trees, their branches swaying violently in the wind. A sudden gust of wind slammed the door shut. I jumped back, my heart pounding. A cold dread settled over me, seeping deep into my bones. I wasn't alone, I could feel it. I spun around, my eyes scanning the shadows, heart pounding in my chest. The room felt colder, as if the darkness itself was alive and closing in on me. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, a primal reaction to the unseen threat. Something was here, lurking in the darkness. Then I saw it, a shadowy figure emerging from the gloom. A figure standing at the end of the hallway, shrouded in darkness, its presence both terrifying and mesmerizing. Its eyes glowed with an eerie light, piercing the gloom and locking onto mine with an intensity that made my blood run cold. Terror froze me in place, my body refusing to obey my desperate urge to flee. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. My throat felt tight, as if the air itself had turned to ice. The figure took a step closer, its form shifting and swirling like smoke, each movement deliberate and menacing. I could hear a low growl emanating from it, a sound that chilled me to my core, reverberating through the silence. This was no ordinary intruder. This was something evil, a malevolent presence that seemed to feed on my fear. I stumbled back, my hand reaching for the doorknob. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing in the silent, oppressive darkness around me. I had to get out, to escape this nightmare. My breath came in ragged gasps as I sprinted down the hallway, the shadows seeming to close in on me from all sides. But the door wouldn't budge. I pushed and pulled with all my might, but it was as if it was welded shut. It was as if an unseen force held it shut. Panic surged through me, my mind racing to find another way out. The figure glided towards me, its growl growing louder. It moved with an unnatural grace, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing myself for the inevitable. My body trembled, every muscle tensed in anticipation of the attack, but the attack never came. Slowly, I opened my eyes, expecting the worst. I opened my eyes slowly. The figure was gone. I was alone. The silence was deafening, the darkness even more suffocating. Had I imagined it all? My mind raced, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Relief washed over me, quickly followed by a surge of confusion. Then I saw it, a glimmer of something in the corner of my eye, my reflection in the hallway mirror. It stared back at me, but something was off. My eyes weren't my own. They glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. They glowed with the same eerie light as the figure. A chill ran down my spine, and my lips were curled into a sinister grin. A grin that wasn't mine. The horror, the true horror, was that I hadn't opened the door to let it in. It had already been inside me all along. It had already been inside me all along. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, leaving me paralyzed with fear.